We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to yet another edition of Free Association Radio. I am your host and navigator, Robert Phoenix. It is the first day of fall, 1 degree Libra. Welcome to autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we continue to be bombarded by spew on all different levels and many different fronts. The spew from Fukushima to the spew from the mainstream media to the spew that's coming out of the orifices of people around the planet who are being tested and pushed and pressed and pulsed and pumped and pulverized into submission. And the submission is ultimately leading us all towards some kind of accountability and inner authority that we all must eventually face. It is the reckoning. It is upon us. Each and every one of you is a part of it, either a witness to it or a part of it and a participant in your own experience. It's just a fact, Jack. Saturn in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, they have been dancing intensely with one another. Revelation is at hand. And it's not bad, but it's not bad. You know, a long time ago, one of my first spiritual teacher, my first great spiritual teacher, I will even tell you his name, Dwayne. And Dwayne was an interesting cat. I've talked about him before. He at one point had been a airline pilot for a major airline, and he had a nervous breakdown, and it was also a spiritual breakthrough. And he could not fly a plane any longer. However, the union was so strong that he also could not lose his job with the airline that he was working for. So instead of no longer being able to fly a plane, or instead of flying a plane, what they did is they put him in the position of being a custodian. So he went from flying the plane to cleaning the plane. And then eventually he retired and wound up living up by Mount Shasta in a very spiritual kind of way. And Dwayne was a lovely guy, a very smart guy, a very wise guy, multidimensional, way ahead of the curve guy. And looking back on his teachings with me, some of which now would I say I reject them? To some extent, yes. There are some things that he shared with me that I at this point in my development I have a bit of a pushback on. But there are other things that he shared with me that have been absolutely spot on. And one of the most spot on principles he ever shared with me was the fact that people don't understand this whole notion of will. And what we think of as will or free will is a misnomer. Now, we are given free will in this universe to use. That is a fact. But what happens is that most people, over a period of time, understand that even though they've used their will freely, they're not truly free. And there is the catch-42, or catch-22. Sorry, level 42. That's the catch-22 of having one's will. Because ultimately, we use free will and we come to the realization that we're not free. So then what? Well, then we have to go inside and say, well, how do we become free? How do we understand and realize our freedom? We must have to, at that point, realign our will. And if that's the case, well, then what? How does it look? I thought I had free will all the time. I thought I was exercising my free will. Look where it got me. Not in a very good place. So then people at that point have to recalibrate and realign themselves with the whole notion and concept of will. Now, that's a very individual experience and a very individual choice. But according to Dwayne, and I think I really chime in on this part, is that when a person aligns themselves with their higher will, right? Their higher will. This is the will that connects them from the universe, from the quote-unquote will of God. And I'm not using this in the pejorative Christian sense of the word, but I am using it in the sense that the universe wants to have an intimate relationship with us. It wants us to follow a higher design, a higher plan, a higher will. Because ultimately, and this is what Dwayne taught me, and it took me years to wrap my head around this, years, that higher will is our own true will, that is where our free will is. And that everything else is like a trial and error process, like kids trying to figure out how the world around them works. Stick your hand in fire, you get burned. You use your will, you use your volition to touch the flame, guess what? It hurts. Now what? Oh, now I align myself with something higher. I allow myself to a greater wisdom which says, hey, use the flame for something else, right? It's not about not sticking your hand in and getting burned. It's about using the flame for something else, using the flame to create or transform or transubstantiate or heat, whatever that is, or maybe burn everything down and start all over again, depending on how you want to use that flame. So here we are. We're all getting pressed. We're all getting pressed. And the press is one half of the word pressure. We're experiencing pressure. You know, David Spangler was another guy. I guess I'm going down memory lane. David Spangler was another guy that I was very into for a long time. My early days of spiritual development, big David Spangler guy. And David Spangler, if you go online and look him up, you'll find that he's associated with Findhorn. He talks about Lucifer. I mean, there's a whole Luciferian kind of thing with David. Has been for a long time. And it's one of those things where he talks about material that some people would recoil from. It's like, oh, this is straight out of Theosophy 101. This is the revelation of the method. This is the unfolding of the hierarchy, all that stuff, right? And yeah, he's part of that tradition. And I, at one point, outgrew David Spangler, but he wrote something very interesting about pressure one time. And he talks about pressure as being this force in our lives that is a viable force. It's an important force. and it pushes us. It pushes us. It shapes us. It creates a type of tension and a spiritual gravity that forces us to do things so that we have to confront this force in our lives. And then we do other things in order to work with it. We have to ameliorate it. We go into denial with it. We become codependent with it, or we meet it head on and we deal with the pressure. And pressure is a spiritual force in our lives. And if you take David Spangler and then you take my friend Dwayne, you put them together, pressure is what brings us into an alignment and an accountability with our will. Because if things are not working for us in our lives, and we've been using our will accordingly, or at least we think we have, then we have to take it up a few more levels. We have to get to a higher will. And that's where it's at. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing this. I need to surrender to this. I need to let this in my life. I have to allow. I need to flow. Now you're into this wonderful state of following, allowing, surrendering, and acting from the locus of your own true will, which is your free will. Now you're acting out of free will. A lot of what people think of as free will is really an illusion. Free will is when you align yourself to the highest and deepest spectrum of your soul's directive and your soul's connection and transmission from the center of the universe, from God, the life force, creation. And your life will not work until you do it. That's just the way it is. And sometimes you can get on that tractor beam for a while, and guess what? You fuck up, you do a few things, and the next thing you know, you're scrambling how to figure out how to get back there. How do I get back to this place? How do I get back to the happy place? The happy place is when I'm content, I'm working, I'm abundant, I have good relationships, good connection, wonderful interactivity with people, abundance, joy. And it's not that if you're not in that place, you're a bad person, or you sinned, or you fucked up, but it's like that's where you want to stay. You want to stay in that sweet spot. You want to stay there. The challenge with the world is that the world takes us out of the sweet spot all the time. I'm not blaming it on the world. I'm not blaming it on Obama. I'm not blaming it on the Illuminati. I'm not blaming it on Israel. I'm not blaming it on the NSA. I'm not blaming it on Miley Cyrus. I'm not blaming it on Jay-Z. I'm not blaming it on Benjamin Netanyahu or Aleister Crowley or Dianne Feinstein. But those things exist, okay? These are the pitfalls of our world. These are the people, these are the forces, these are the symbols that we have to navigate through. And they're bullshit programs, right? And so we have to wind our way through that stuff, and we have to wind our way through our own internal labyrinth and find our true north and find our way out of the maze of illusion and suffering. Because we're in this world and we are not. We're in this world but not of it. This is the axiom that we need to be able to live by. And it's challenging. Now here we are. Excuse me, it's the first day of autumn and it's kind of like a new year. Really. I think it is. It's a cardinal point on the zodiac. It is a new year. It is like, in some ways, Aries 1, but we're on the other side of it. And because we are so steeped in relationship now with Libra, part of the work that we have to do is with other people. Plain and simple, you can't get out of it. That's where it's at. And everybody has their own other people thing in their life. Their own other people thing. So speaking of other people, I want to thank everybody for all the well wishes for my birthday, which was yesterday. It was, I'm always blown away by the Facebook birthday. One of the best things about Facebook is that birthday thing. I mean, you could feel shitty for 364 days out of the year. But on your birthday, I dare anybody who's on Facebook to feel lousy on their birthday. You get happy birthdays from strangers. Oh, really? You're my Facebook friend? Thanks. I didn't even know you were my Facebook friend. That's great. It's one of the cool things, a very Aquarian thing about Facebook. It's a very 11th house deal. And, whenever there's a birthday, I used to go through this. Well, do I really know this person? I really know. Am I being real? I wish them a happy birthday. Is this just a superficial happy birthday? And a few months ago, I said, fuck it. I'm going to wish everybody happy birthday. I don't care if I don't know you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. You never know how these things change people. You just never know. And that's the beauty about creation. You never know. You never know how one simple act can change the entire world. You never know. You never know. Maybe sometimes you do. Maybe one day somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I had a conversation with you 10 years ago, and you said something to me, and I was a better person for it. It could happen. You can change somebody's life, but you may not see them for 10 years. You may not even remember it. You never know. You might be opening a door for somebody in that moment, and that door opening for them what is a major deal at that moment in time. And it stops them. It stops them maybe from doing something that they may regret. You just never know how things impact other people. And that's why it's important to stay open to the possibility of change and transformation and joy in the midst of the shitstorm of this planet. And that we have the ultimate responsibility of holding this thing up. Now, there are some people who think that it's just an archonic, Gnostic hellhole. And in some ways, they are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Look around you. If you don't see the suffering, if you don't see the inequity, if you don't see the hypocrisy, if you don't see the manipulation, then you're asleep. And I'm not even sure why you're listening to my show. Maybe it's because you want to hear this or need to. But it's a different conversation. So yes, there is this archonic garden of evil that we're living in. But the key to it is not necessarily to disavow that we're here. We are here. We are here. We are here. He's a really brilliant blogger, Brian Camilla, and I had this conversation with I'm a Truther over on Facebook a couple days ago. And Brian makes great points about the nature of creation and symbols and the universe. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But he says none of this is real, nothing exists. And he comes to the point that most mystics do, that it's all an illusion. And it's like, well, great. Then why do you do your blog? And this is not a knock on him, but why do you do your blog? You do your blog because you see people suffering and you want to help them. I get that. You do your blog because you're very bright, and it's a way for you to allow your intelligence and your hyperdimensionality, your multidimensionality to come through. I get that too. But to say that this doesn't exist and it doesn't matter and nothing exists, well, then don't do anything. Don't do anything. Go live in a cave. Turn your back to the world. Go live in a cave and look at the backside of the cave. Go shake hands with Plato. But we're here now. We're here, and we're all having to go through this experience together. And even though we live in this archonic hellhole of suffering, don't kid yourself. An act of kindness, an act of authenticity matters. It counts. Even if you think it is mundane, it counts. Even if it's an accident, it counts. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we're playing baseball. And there was a boy who was catching. He is my coach's son. He's never caught before. First time. If you've never played baseball, you've never caught, it's a very challenging thing. You've got to put on gear. You have to watch out for the bat. You have to watch out for the ball that's coming. You've got a big umpire saying, "Good!" ball behind you. It's like it's the closest thing on a baseball field to being on a football field or being a knight in armor, because you got to wear all that gear and stuff, right? So he's there, and never caught before. My son is pitching, and in baseball they have a rule, and the rule is on the third strike, if the batter swings and the ball goes by the catcher and there's nobody on first, the batter can run to first base, and the catcher must pick up the ball and then throw it to first and get the batter out. You see it all the time in the major leagues. Most times it is a fait accompli and the runner is out. In Little League, however, it's a whole other story, because it's not a given that the catcher will be able to get to the ball, A, and B, throw it to first base in time or even accurately. So as a manager, you have to prepare for the moment, right? So I see that there's 2 strikes on the batter, new catcher. I call timeout just to go talk to him, to tell him what he needs to do. I call timeout. I go to home plate. He stands up. He's got the catcher's helmet on. He's got the catcher's mask on, and he's looking straight across from me, and all I see in his eyes are tears and fear and pain. I had no idea that that's what he was experiencing in that moment. I went back there because I wanted to change something about the experience, the logistics about the experience. I wanted to make sure he knew what to do. And when I got there, I could see that he was suffering. And I looked at him and I said, "Are you okay?" And he shook his head no. I said, "Do you want to take the gear off?" And he shook his head yes. He had hurt himself. He got hit on the hand with a pitch, and he was in pain. I had to take him out of the game. I had to bring in another player who was quite good. Now I realize I have another kid who can catch on the team. Great. Happy about that. And meanwhile, he goes to the dugout. His dad is my coach. His dad gets to hang out with him, put some ice on his hands, and his dad gets to, be a compassionate dad in that moment. Whatever. It's his birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday, Neil, even though you're probably not listening. I had no idea that was going on. I went back there to just change, to make sure he knew what to do, and then I realized that he was in pain. And we made an adjustment. We changed. We got him out of the game. And that's how life is sometimes. You just don't know. You may go about and do something, and then you put yourself in a situation, you realize it's much bigger than that moment, or you're there and you're engaged in doing something that is important in that moment. So you never know. You just never know. So don't give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. I have people that come to me and they tell me that they're ready to commit suicide. And that's a free will universe. If you want to do it, do it. Okay? I can't stop you if that's what you want to do. But if you step back and take a few steps back and look at your situation and understand where you are, and maybe, just maybe, it is not as terrible as you might think. Now, a lot of people want out. I get that. It is not easy to be here right now. It is not. Shit is getting triggered and tripwired like it's Apocalypse Now, like it's Platoon, right? And they've got the tripwires and they've got the click boxes, and it is just your issues and your emotions are, they are like the Viet Cong coming through the night and hitting those tripwires and getting closer and closer and closer. That's what it is. This is grown-up time now. This is facing yourself time now, and I have to do it all the time. I got my own inequities. I've got my own imperfections. I've got my own things that I have to wrestle with and deal with. I'm not perfect. None of us are. Does it mean that we can't help people and serve each other? No, it's not true at all. We do to the degree to which we can at a given amount of time. And when we can't, we step off, we step back, and we regroup, and we refresh ourselves, we recalibrate, Then when we're ready, we come back in. We do it again. Why? Because we're here. We're here. We agreed to be in the dream or the nightmare, whatever it is. Will it end? Yeah, absolutely. It's ending right now. It's always ended. It always will end. It was funny yesterday. I'm going to talk more about the game. This, to me, this is a metaphor for where we are right now. We have these young umpires. When I say young, they're like sophomores in high school, roughly freshman, sophomore in high school. And yesterday we had a young man and a young woman. And the young woman was in the field. And it's like, we all as managers want to be supportive of the umpires, right? Because they are learning just like we are. They're part of the game. They're doing this for free, right? So we have this female umpire, young woman, and there's a play. There's a ball hit to my shortstop, who I know can make the play. It's easy for him. It's just a small pop-up. And he's going to get it, and the kid on second base, let me do this. Let me do the sound. There it is, right there. Runs into him. He can't make the play. Kids run around the bases. I walk out there, I call timeout. I said, excuse me, wasn't that interference? Because it was interference. The runner cannot impede with the player to make a play. It's interference. Wasn't it interference? And she looked at me like I was living on another planet. She said to me, I didn't see it. She was 10 feet away, 15 feet away. I'm scratching my head. You didn't see it. And this actually happened last week. And there was a play at first base. And a kid pulled his foot off the base. It was quite clear. And the umpire, young man, he didn't see it. And I thought about this. I said, what does this mean? There was another play where we had a batter. One of my kids got hit in the head. And the umpire at home plate didn't call anything. He didn't go to first, take your base. Nothing. I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this. And I realized that we're beginning to live in two separate worlds. That these kids are living in a different world. They're living in a different reality. They're living in more of a trance in some ways. Because they didn't see any of this stuff. It was mind-blowing, to be honest with you. Now, I don't have an answer for that, but clearly that's what I was experiencing with them. I didn't see it. She was 10 feet away. Well, what did she see? It was bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Okay, let me play a little bit of music, and when I get back, we'll talk some more. We'll talk about what happened to Obama this last week. Some of you might already know, but if you don't, you might find it to be pretty revelatory. So why don't we play a little bit of music? Let's do a little Stephen Michael Hill. Let's do testing 1, 2, 3. It's 3 minutes and 6 seconds of sheer incendiary rock, jazz, fusion fretwork. I'll be back right after this smoking track by Stephen Michael Hill. Here we go. That was Michael Lee Hill. I'm sorry, I call him Stephen Michael Hill. I apologize for that. Michael Lee Hill. I get him confused with Stephen Hill, who is the owner of Hearts of Space Music. So that was Michael Lee Hill testing. 1, 2, 3. So talk a little bit about Obama. Joe Biden, I just was in the chat room. Hello to all the chat folk. Happy Monday. I was just in there, and somebody was mentioning that it's Biden during the Colorado floods and not Obama. There's a reason for that. Apparently, Barack Obama had a nervous breakdown last week. Either that or the clone expired. Maybe the main clone expired. When the main clone expired, maybe all the other clones expire as well. But the scuttlebutt from Capitol Hill is that he had a nervous breakdown, that everything was too much, that he lost to Putin, that the Syria plan did not work, that it was a complete and utter embarrassment, shame, loss of face, and whether or not you believe he was born in Kenya or he was born in Hawaii or he was born in a test tube somewhere beneath Area 51 with the DNA of an Egyptian pharaoh. I believe that he is a Leo, no matter what, and Leos hate to lose faith. And he lost faith in a really big way. And he, according to sources, had a meltdown and had to be sedated. Sedated. This is what's happening, boys and girls. Valerie Jarrett's running the show. Barack Obama is crumbling because there is a disconnect between whatever it is in his spirit and the world at large and the plans and the fate, the destiny, whatever he attached himself to as a result of allowing himself to be handled every step of the way by people who wanted to promote him to the position of President of the United States so that he could do their bidding for whatever reason they believed that he was the right person to do that with and for. We got a problem. We have a big problem. At least on that level. I don't know if you've noticed it, but we are theoretically headed towards some kind of fiscal shutdown shortly. Obamacare is about to launch, and the pilot for Obamacare is absent. The man who it is named after, the one who was the figurehead for this program that was created and authored by people inside the insurance industry, along with closet eugenicists like Zeke Emanuel, Rahm Emanuel's brother. He's not going to be around when it is going to launch, and probably launch very erratically. I mean, there are still people that are fighting Obamacare tooth and nail before it comes to a provider near you later this month. This is coming. So we have that going on, and we have a crisis in leadership. We have issues with the budget, theoretically, although that's bullshit. Trust me on that. It's always bullshit. There's more. First of all, this whole idea that the United States is bankrupt, and it's all zeros and ones anyway. Who gives a rat's ass? Let it go. Let it default. You know, what are they going to do? Send in UN troops? I'll give you a clue. They're already here. So we have a problem. Failure to launch. That's what it is. We got a guy who's melting down. And who knows where that's all going to go. Massive crisis in leadership. Massive. And we're staring down October and November. November, the power's supposed to go out. You know, you've got this Section 3 with FEMA drills and all this all this other stuff happening. And at the same time, life goes on. Life goes on. We live our lives. We live our lives accordingly. We live our lives to the best that we can in the moment that we can. And it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people right now. But don't give up. Don't ever give up. So I wanted to mention a few things, just a few housekeeping things. John Anthony West and James Swager on this Friday. We're going to be talking about Atlantis and hidden history and secret sites and all that good stuff. So if you're into that sort of thing and it's fascinating, I would definitely pay attention and listen to Friday's show. I think we'll all learn something. Should be really good. But speaking about the show in general, we had a great one on Friday with Freeman and Jamie Hanshaw, and of course Carrie Otis. It's a great show. Everybody that listened to it totally enjoyed it. Freeman and Jamie were terrific. Carrie was revelatory, and I think it's part and parcel of the show. I'm going to beat my chest right now. I'm going to say this is a damn good radio show. Quality guests, good content. We've got a fantastic chat room where people are turned on and smart. You can go in there and you can learn stuff. There's a nucleus and a community that's brewing. This is good stuff, people. It's good stuff. And I'm proud of it, okay? I am proud of this show. I am proud of the fact that over the last 3 years that we have all stuck together and we get here together 3 days a week and do this thing. I would like to do it more. I'd like to do this every day, 2 to 3 hours every day with lots of guests. That's where I'd like to go with all of this. And while my show is not a poor sister on Blog Talk Radio, I feel like the numbers need to be better. I'm not satisfied with the numbers. I don't think that the numbers match the quality of the show. I'm being honest. I'm not being egotistical. I'm not being arrogant. I'm being honest. Now, in some ways, I don't have anything to do about it. People will discover it. They'll find it on their own accord. And if it works and it's the will of God, so be it, right? And I also have to make a living doing this. And I don't ask for donations or anything like that very often. If you feel like you want to donate and allow me to continue to bring in these guests and the inspirational content and all this stuff, great, fine. I'd be happy to accept your donations. Wonderful. It would keep me going and allow me to help other people as well. All right? Because that's my ultimate goal. You can do that through my PayPal account, robertphoenix.com. Whatever. You can go there, donate, that's fine. But if you can't, or you don't want to, and I'm not expecting you or asking you, but here's what I would like you to do. And it wouldn't take you very much. I would like you to tell 2 people about this show. That's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to tell 2 people about this show. To tell them that this is good radio, that they might actually enjoy it, that they may actually get something out of it. And you don't have to donate anything. Just tell 2 people that you like it. If you listen to this and you enjoy it, send the link to this show to 2 people. That's all I'm asking. And then maybe they can send the link to 2 people. I want to build these numbers up. Because you know what happened? I asked the people that I'm working with right now to feature Carrie Otis. And I didn't even get an email back, okay, from them. And I want that to change because she was worthy of a feature. That show was worthy of a feature. And I want that to change. It doesn't take any money to make the kinds of changes I'm talking about. All it takes is numbers and ears. Just tell 2 people about this show. If you want to donate, fine. That's great. Just tell 2 people. I needed to get that off my chest. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about sports. Then I'll send you off into the day. Do you know I am a sports fan? And the thing I like about sports isn't the fact that in some ways people win or lose, although that's interesting too, because when people are put under a certain spotlight and their character is revealed or not. And it's the human drama, it is the mythos that I enjoy about sports. And as a man, I played a lot of sports when I was a kid, and that was the one area where you could really find out kind of where you were in any given moment. You know, there's no bullshit. There was no in between. You know, if you played basketball, you either did well or you sucked. And there was no kind of hyper conflating over how well you did or didn't do. You either rose to the occasion or not. It's black and white. You made the shot or you didn't. You blocked the shot or you didn't. So I think that as a man, one of the things that we get from sports that we don't often get from life is there's this immediate frisson with the event and the activity. If you're a skateboarder, you go to do a trick, and you pull it off, great. If you don't, guess what? You find out real fast. An asphalt will be a clear reminder that you didn't do that thing properly in that moment. So that said, you know, I've been following the San Francisco 49ers for years, and I wrote quite extensively last year about a young man by the name of Colin Kaepernick, who's a quarterback. I wrote about it from an astrological perspective. I wrote about it from an archetypal perspective, a lot of stuff. He's a very interesting young man, and he went from zero to hero in almost record time. And he is a Pluto and Scorpio kid. He's got tattoos all over his body. He has a complete FU attitude to people that don't like what he's doing or don't like how he looks or what he's doing. It's part and parcel of the Pluto and Scorpio generation. It's the middle finger. It's okay. That's what they are. That's what they do. However, it has repercussions. And the repercussions, in the case of Mr. Kaepernick, is that he's not playing well now. And he is not even just not playing well, he's stinking up the joint. And when you go from being in a place where you're being feted and celebrated to a place where you are not even close to being that person, it can be real crushing. And he's dealing with that right now, but he's also dealing with the team and the team in general having a very challenging road for many reasons. And it has to do with the coach, Jim Harbaugh, and it has to do with an event that happened last week. And he has one of his star players, a troubled young man by the name of Alden Smith, and Alden Smith got drunk for the second time and had a DUI for the second time in less than 2 years. He crashed into a tree. There was a gunfight at his house not too many months ago. He was stabbed. He's been in another altercation. He was in a car wreck. He's only been in pro football for 2 years. He's immensely talented, immensely gifted, but very troubled. And he had his second DUI, and a bad one, really bad one. He hit a tree. He could have hit a kid. I was at 7 a.m. People are getting up. They're going to work. They're going to school. And this guy blows a .15, and he's driving home, and he hits a tree. And then he passes out at the wheel, and he's got his foot in the accelerator, and his truck is trying to move forward, and this poor tree is being pressed upon by all this Detroit steel and this young man who's gone unconscious in his life and in that moment. And what happened as a result troubled me deeply. He went to practice that day, and he actually practiced with the team. And then he actually played this weekend, and he did not do well. The team got its lunch handed to them, and rightfully so. And what was troubling about the whole experience was that there was a lack of accountability on the part of the team and the coach and leadership. And this is coming from somebody who has espoused these things, but often in a real double standard in some ways. And what we have is we have a young man who hopefully can get his life together. He's not on the team anymore. For now, he may come back. But you go into inpatient treatment with alcohol, you never know. He may decide he may never want to play another down of football again. And it may be the best thing for him, in spite of what the team thinks or what the fans think. But it's interesting and fascinating to watch what's happening with them and watching their fall from grace. And one of the things that it really struck home for me is to be as close to authentic as possible in all of our lives. And Jim Harbaugh has been playing fast and loose with that for a while. And in some ways, it's kind of the challenge of our society and our world in general. You know, we've been banking everything against the future. We don't even know what the future holds. You know, they were banking on this young man being able to somehow come back and perform at a high level so they can win a football game. And they didn't think about his well-being. They didn't think about other people's well-being who might have been in harm's way with too much alcohol. They didn't think of any of that. And they may have convinced themselves that it was important for them to have him show up and to have him play, that it was the most normalizing effect that he could have in his life. But I couldn't agree less. The most normalizing thing in his life would be to pull him aside and say, son, you got a problem. We're going to deal with this right now. And we don't care what the collective bargaining agreement says. We don't care what the league says. We're going to hold you out in the game. You're going to get paid. We're going to put you on the sidelines. You know, or you're going to be close to the team. But you're not going to play. They didn't do that. They exploited him. They exploited him. They exploited his talent in the face of his own personal demons and tragedy. And this is what happens, and what has happened in our lives. And we can't hold off any longer. We can't invest in the future without being able to be present. It's just the way it is. And they weren't. But you all may say, well, it's just pro sports and I don't give a shit. They make millions of dollars, they're spoiled brats, it should all go away. Well, maybe that's the case. But these are people's lives, and they have to deal with it. They have to live with it. It's courses of action that they've chosen. And there we are. That is the name of the game. That is the scheme of things. So here we are here. It is October. Well, it's not October. It's 1 degree Libra, September 23rd. Today is John Coltrane's birthday, by the way. John Coltrane, amazing. One of the greatest artists ever to live. Ever. Period. End of story. And an amazing human, too. He was a mystic. John Coltrane was a complete mystic. It was all about finding the source, finding the God source in the notes, in the space between the notes. What's fascinating about Coltrane is when you listen to his later compositions, they're just so out there. They're so out there. And his ideology in some ways is so very much New Age. But you listen to the music, it's anything but New Age. It is really demanding music on the edge of improvisation. Amazing stuff. Anyway, happy birthday, John Coltrane, wherever you are. It's also Bruce Springsteen's birthday. I'm less enthusiastic about Bruce Springsteen than I am about John Coltrane. However, if you've ever seen Bruce Springsteen live, you'll appreciate his ability to perform. I saw him live a couple times. First time I saw him, he was amazing. But he's not somebody I listen to very much anymore. And it's also, who else? Ray Charles. Ray Charles' birthday is today as well. Another great musical figure. So, Libra 1. Ace of Clubs. Today is also the Ace of Clubs. All right, boys and girls. I think that's it. I think we've reached the end of the narrative thread here today. Say a prayer for the people in Colorado and everywhere else in this world. Say a prayer for them. If you don't believe in God, whatever, what would it hurt? What would it hurt you? You may be surprised. You may absolutely be utterly surprised what happens. That's it. So I will meet you and see you all back here on Wednesday, where we will break down the stars. And we will navigate the astrological matrix. We will do readings for people and journey into the soul of the cosmos. That's all on Wednesday. And then on Friday, again, John Anthony West and James Swager. It should be very good. And we got to get in touch with some people that we haven't talked to in quite a while. I think, let's see. I think I'm going to try to bring on Robert Bonomo. Maybe I'll try to get him for a little bit on Friday too. Find out what's happening in Russia right now. Get an update on the whole Putin-Obama thing. It can be very interesting. And then we're going to think, I think Sarah Nash is coming back next week on the first Friday. We'll talk to her and find out what her revelations are about Burning Man. She was there. Gaiam.com. You can see me on Gaiam.com. My 2 shows that are up there. I did a show about the baby boomers, and I did a show about the millennials, Pluto and Scorpio. So go to Gaiam.com and check me out, check a bunch of other people out. It's good stuff happening over there. That's it. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to the Monday Mashup. Here is Philip K. Dick. I will see you all right here, same bad time, same bad channel, on Wednesday. Adios.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.